Hey guys, I'm about to show you the best way that I have found to keep your welding rods dry and crisp. And it does not start with a rod heater. Before we get started on the real way to keep your rods, let's go over the rod heater and what I think about it. I'm pretty sure you all know, but why don't I fill you in? So believe it or not, I have a rod heater on this truck. Right here on this little lid I built. It's not used ever, but I've got a Lincoln rod heater right there. I've got it wired into the welding machine. All right, well, I plug it in. I've got a plug at the welding machine. It's not wired completely in. But I only did that because a gas company told me that I had to keep my rods at 300 degrees. Which was ridiculous, and I knew it. But I did it because you've got to do what they say. Look, there's a few people that you don't argue with. State troopers, game wardens, welding inspectors, x-ray. You just try to get along with them and do what they ask. Because they've got their place and they've got to do their job. They wanted a rod heater. I needed a job. I wanted to do the job they had, so I got one. Now, does it work? Yes, it will dry your rods out. If you've got your rods wet or something, you can put them in there if they're low hydrogen. If they're 70-18 and that nature, white usually, that'll dry them out. If they're cellulose rods, those gray ones, 60-10, 80-10, those kind of rods, there's no reviving those. They will crack. If you put them in that rod heater, they'll crack and they'll be worthless. And if you get them wet and they stay wet, they'll also be worthless. You can get them wet real quick and dry them off and they'll be okay. But I don't want to digress too much. I'm trying to tell you about the best way to keep your welding rods. So the reason I use an ammo can for the best rod saver in the world is because it holds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there's a few stragglers up here, probably some jet rods. Different style rods. Now the trick to keeping your rods safe in this box, believe it or not, is keeping it full as possible. If you'll keep your rods full, the can won't be breathing. So if there's substance in the can, it won't heat up so much and suck so much in. It condensates if it does. If you put an empty can in the weather, the sun will hit it and it'll blow up like a balloon and it'll blow air out. And then when it gets cold, it'll suck air in, it'll suck, that messes them up. I found keeping it as full as you can, it's not full right now, I should add to it, but it helps, all that helps. Now, we've got 60-10, 80-10, 60-10 1/8, 80-10 532, 70-18 532, 70-18 332, 70-18 1/8, 5 millimeter 70 plus or 80-10, and 70. Let's see, what are these? 80-18s. This is for the heavy wall stuff we do. I don't have time to be jacking with little cans and have them rolling around in my truck going bad. That's another thing. That is the absolutely worst place to keep your welding rods is in your truck because all the moisture in there stays in there. It's like a humidor in there of sweat and wet and nastiness. Get your rods out, put them in a ammo can, and build little dividers. I've got these dividers in here that separate them diagonally so you can access your rods. I don't have one built here because I usually keep this really full. We use a lot of those. But you see how I can reach in and get these and I can reach in and get those? It's just a little aluminum piece of plate I put in there. That is I'm not sure what millimeter it is, but I've got 3 of them coming that are perfect. If y'all want one, let me know. I'll get you an ammo can. I'll cut the plate up for you and I'm going to put wheels on it so people can use it in a shop. Because I was thinking, man, people could use that in a shop. If it had some nice wheels on it, they could slide it under a desk. You could buy the 50 pounds of rods and not have to worry about them going bad, Because if you're in a climate controlled area, it's not going to do any sucking and pulling. It's going to stay what it is when you put them in there. And I think the only reason these ever get any oldness to them, if they ever start to degrade, is because I'm opening it in the rain. You know, we try to put the tent around it and I open it up and I slip my hand in there. But still, you're getting some degree of moisture in there, and it's going to, you know, they're going to get, I'm not going to say bad, but they're going to not weld as good later. But I've had them in there, I know, for 3 and 4 months at a time. Possibly, I think there was one time I had them in there 8 months, and I burned every one of them. They weren't quite as crisp as when they came out of the box, but they burnt fine, you know what I mean? So, this slides into, I'm going to show you, buckle this down. This slides into a little carriage that I built. This thing weighs a couple 100 pounds probably. So, let me get you a closer look. Show them the carriage right there. That's what you got. That's what you got to slide that ammo can in. Now, over here, let's see, it's all in disarray now. But the good news is, what I was trying to show you is, you can snatch this baby out and stick them inside if you're not going to weld for long periods of time. And tote them inside if you want to, okay? And you don't have to put a full box in here. You can keep, you know, you can keep them fresh by putting this many rods, and you got your other rods maybe in a refrigerator. An old refrigerator works really good for open cans. But these need to stay fresh because you're burning them every day, and the worst thing in the world is to weld all day with some bad rods. It can be done. I've welded with awful rods. Your welds don't look as good and it's harder to do. But if you'll try to do your best to take care of them, just keep them good. They don't have to be perfect, but if you keep them in fair shape, they're going to weld good. You'll know when you get a bad one. It'll start toenailing and puffing up, and it'll puff up and you'll see it burn down to the puddle and just splatter all over the place. It's a real bummer. But that, in my opinion, is the absolute best way to keep your welding rods. Now, there's one more thing I want to show you before I let you go. Is the old one. I just replaced this one with this one. This is the newer one. This is one that was on my truck for probably, I don't know, 8 years. I just changed it about 8 months ago. And the reason I did that, you see that seal started to get just a little bit worn from opening and shutting. Started getting worn there. There was a few wear spots. And this thing's been sitting outside, and this dry as a popcorn fart too. And the latch, I'm probably making all kind of noise. The latch, it started getting weak. I mean, it started kind of flopping up. I mean, you can see this one, this newer one, really, I mean, that baby's shut. I mean, it's tight. And when this one wears out, you can jerk it out. You can pull your insert. That's an insert that's in there that divides the rods. Drop them in a new can, stick them in your cradle, and go. It's kind of a system that I wish I would have had right at the beginning. So thanks, Lynn, for turning me on to it. I wish I'd listened the first time you said it. You have an awesome day, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you have any gripes and complaints, I want you to roll them up and stick them. Later.